The space station was called Helix 9, a floating metal world deep in the dark edge of the galaxy. It was old, silent, and full of broken machines that no one cared about anymore. Humans were not respected here. They were workers, cleaners, and cheap labor for alien officers. Jack was one of them. A simple human janitor with tired eyes and quiet steps. He was not strong, not famous, and not important in anyone's eyes. Every day he cleaned floors, fixed small messes, and avoided eye contact with aliens who passed him like he was invisible. He never complained, because complaining only made life worse in Helix 9. The station had hundreds of sections, but there was one place everyone feared. A sealed area called the hatchery zone, locked behind thick alien doors. No human worker was allowed to go near it, and even alien guards avoided talking about it. Some said it was dead, some said it was cursed, and some said something inside was still alive and angry. For years, no cleaning crew had entered that zone. Dust had built up, systems had failed, and strange sounds were reported from behind the walls. Sometimes workers heard soft shaking noises, like something sleeping too deeply was turning in its sleep. Other times, they heard whispers that made their minds feel heavy and confused. One day, the station supervisor called Jack into a small metal room. The supervisor was an alien with sharp eyes and a cold voice. He looked at Jack like he was just another useless tool, not a person. "You will clean Sector H7, the alien said without emotion. Jack did not understand at first, because Sector H7 was the hatchery zone. No human had ever been sent there and returned with a normal mind. Jack stayed quiet for a moment, then asked carefully, "Isn't that area restricted?" The alien officer gave a slow, strange smile. "It is restricted because it is useless, broken, and forgotten," he replied. "Cleaning it will not matter, but you are the only human we can waste on this job." Those words hurt, but Jack had learned not to show pain. He simply nodded, because refusal meant punishment or worse assignments. In Helix 9, humans did not have choices, only orders. When Jack left the room, other workers looked at him with silent pity. No one said anything, because speaking too much could bring attention. But everyone knew what Sector H7 meant. It meant danger, silence, and sometimes disappearance. Later that night, Jack prepared his cleaning tools. A small vacuum unit, repair kit, light scanner, and a simple oxygen mask. He checked everything twice, not because he was afraid, but because survival depended on small details. As he walked through the long corridors towards Sector H7, the station slowly changed. Lights became dimmer, air felt warmer, and the sound of machines disappeared. Even the gravity felt slightly different, like the station itself was holding its breath. Jack noticed strange markings on the walls, alien symbols that looked ancient and burned into metal. Some of them were scratched over, as if someone tried to hide them in panic. The deeper he walked, the more uneasy he felt, but he kept going forward. Not because he was brave, but because he had already been sent too far to turn back. Finally, he reached the massive sealed door of Sector H7. It was not like normal station doors. It was huge, black, and covered in glowing red lines. There was no keypad, no handle, only a strange circular mark in the center. Jack stood in front of it, feeling a cold pressure in his chest. Every instinct told him to leave, but the order was already given. He slowly raised his hand and placed it on the glowing circle. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire door vibrated like it had recognized something it should not recognize. The red lines turned blue, and the massive door began to open by itself. Behind it was darkness, deep and heavy, like the inside of a sleeping giant. A cold wind came out, carrying a smell of metal, dust, and something alive. Jack stepped forward slowly, not knowing that the moment he entered, everything in his life was about to change forever. The moment Jack stepped inside Sector H7, the world behind him felt like it disappeared. The massive door slowly closed on its own, making a deep sound like a final warning. For a second, he thought about turning back, but it was already too late. The seal behind him locked with a heavy metal click that echoed through the dark corridor. Inside, the air was different, warm but heavy. Like something alive was breathing around him. The light from his small scanner barely worked, flickering like it was afraid of the place. Jack raised it slowly and looked around. But what he saw made him stop completely. The hatchery was not a small room. It was a massive underground chamber. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness, and the floor stretched far beyond what his eyes could see. Strange structures covered the walls, shaped like broken nests made from metal and stone. Everything looked ancient, older than the station itself, older than human records. He took a slow step forward, and the ground made a soft vibrating sound. Not like metal, but like something organic reacting to his presence. Jack paused, listening carefully, but there was only silence, deep and unnatural. Then he noticed the eggs. They were not normal eggs. They were huge, each one the size of a small vehicle. They were placed in rows across the chamber, connected by thin glowing lines like veins. Some of them were cracked, some were dark, and some were pulsing faintly as if still alive. Jack walked closer, his footsteps echoing strangely, as if the sound was being copied by the walls. He scanned one of the eggs, but the device instantly shut down. He tried again, but every electronic tool in his hand stopped working at the same time. It was as if the entire chamber rejected technology. A strange thought entered his mind. This place was not abandoned, it was waiting. Suddenly, a soft sound broke the silence, a low crack, like glass breaking slowly under pressure. Jack turned his head sharply toward the sound, his heart beating faster. One of the eggs near the center started to split open. Not violently, but carefully, like something inside was choosing the right moment to wake up. A thin blue light leaked from the crack, glowing brighter with every second. Jack stepped back instinctively, but his body felt heavy, like the air was pulling him closer. The cracking sound continued, spreading across nearby eggs, one after another. It was not random. It was coordinated, like they were responding to his arrival. Then the first creature emerged. It was small at first, but not harmless. Its shape was like a young dragon mixed with machine-like armor. Its skin shimmered with metallic blue energy, and its eyes opened slowly, glowing like burning stars. The creature looked around the chamber, confused for only a second. Then its gaze locked directly onto Jack. Everything became silent again, even the cracking stopped. Jack froze, unsure if he should run or stay still. The creature stepped forward, its claws touching the ground without sound. Then something impossible happened. It bowed its head, not like an animal, but like a soldier greeting its commander. Jack whispered to himself, "This makes no sense." But before he could think further, more eggs began to crack. One after another, the sound spreading across the entire chamber like a waking storm. The ground started shaking slightly, not from destruction, but from awakening life. Hundreds of faint blue lights appeared inside the eggs, glowing in sync. It was like the entire hatchery had been waiting for a single signal. Jack's scanner suddenly turned back on for 1 second, showing an impossible reading. Ancient war species. Status: reactivation initiated. Then it shut down permanently, melting slightly in his hand. Jack dropped it immediately, his breathing becoming faster. He looked around and saw movement inside every egg now. Something inside each one was waking up, responding to him, and then he heard it, not with his ears, but inside his mind. A voice, deep and layered, not one voice but many speaking together. It said only 2 words: "Master returns." Jack stepped back in shock, shaking his head. "I am not your master," he said loudly, his voice echoing through the chamber. But the creatures did not respond with aggression, only silence. Instead, more eggs cracked open at once, and every single creature that emerged did the same thing. They all turned toward him, and slowly, one by one, they bowed. The entire hatchery was now awake, and all of it was looking at a single human janitor, as if he was something far greater than he believed himself to be. The silence inside Sector H7 was no longer normal. It was a living silence, heavy and waiting, like the chamber itself was holding its breath. Jack stood frozen in the middle of the vast hatchery, surrounded by glowing eggs and awakening shadows. The first creature that had emerged was still standing in front of him. Its blue eyes never left Jack, as if studying something deeply hidden inside him. Around it, more cracks spread across the eggs like lightning trapped in slow motion. Then it happened at once. A deep wave of sound rolled through the chamber. Not loud like an explosion, but powerful like a planet waking up. Every egg responded together. As if connected by a single mind, one by one, they opened, not breaking randomly, but unfolding in a controlled, almost intelligent way. From each egg, a creature stepped out, different in shape, but similar in presence. All of them carried the same strange energy, a mix of ancient power and forgotten technology. Jack slowly stepped backward, but the ground beneath him felt unstable, not physically, but emotionally, like reality itself was shifting. He had never seen anything like this in his life, not even in military reports or alien history logs. The creatures filled the chamber now. Some were large like armored beasts, some were smaller but faster, some had wings made of glowing energy. Others had bodies like machines fused with living flesh. But all of them shared one thing: their eyes. Every eye was locked on Jack. A low rumbling sound filled the air. It was not a growl, not a machine noise, but something deeper, like a language without words. Jack covered his ears instinctively, but the sound was not coming from outside. It was coming from inside his mind. "Master is here," the voice said again, louder this time. But it was not one voice, it was many voices speaking as one. Jack shook his head, stepping back, saying loudly, "No. I am not your master, I am just a janitor," his words echoed. But the creatures did not react with confusion or anger. Instead, they all lowered their heads at the same time, as if his denial meant nothing to them. Then the second wave of awakening began. The floor beneath the chamber started glowing faintly, revealing hidden patterns. Circuits of light appeared across the ground, connecting every creature like a network. Jack realized the hatchery was not just a place. It was a system, a living archive of war beings. Suddenly, the first creature moved closer again. It stopped only a few steps away from Jack, then slowly touched the ground with one claw. The moment it did, a projection of light appeared above them. Images filled the air, battlefields across galaxies, burning planets. Armies of these same creatures fighting alongside a human figure, a human commander standing at the center of destruction, controlling them like an extension of his will. Jack stared at the projection, his heart pounding. The face of that commander looked exactly like him, but stronger, older, and surrounded by a power he could not understand. He stepped back immediately, shaking his head. "This is not real," he whispered. "This is not me." But the creatures reacted instantly. All of them turned toward the projection, then back to Jack, as if confirming something they already knew. The connection was undeniable, but Jack's mind refused to accept it. Then the chamber reacted again. The walls started glowing brighter, revealing hidden writing in ancient alien language. But somehow, Jack could understand parts of it without learning it. It spoke about a first commander, a being who united the war beasts during the Great Galactic Collapse, a being who disappeared during the final war, leaving the armies without control. The chamber trembled slightly, as if remembering pain. The creatures responded with low sounds of grief, almost like mourning. Jack felt something strange in his chest. Not memory, but emotion that did not belong to him. A sadness that felt ancient, heavy, and familiar at the same time. He dropped to one knee for a moment, holding his head. Images flashed in his mind again, faster this time. Commands being given, stars exploding, creatures obeying without question. But then everything stopped. The voices in his head went silent, and the chamber became still again. The creatures waited, unmoving, not attacking, not fleeing, just waiting for him to accept something he could not understand. Jack slowly stood up again, breathing heavily. He looked at them, confused and afraid. "I don't know who you think I am," he said quietly. But deep inside the chamber, something ancient had already decided, and it had already chosen him, whether he accepted it or not. The chamber of Sector H7 did not move anymore. It felt like time itself had stopped inside it, holding everything in a silent grip. Jack stood in the center of thousands of awakening war beasts, but none of them moved. They were waiting, not like animals waiting for food, but like soldiers waiting for a command they had known for a long time. The glowing eggs behind him had all opened now. Every creature stood in formation without speaking, without noise, without chaos. It was too perfect, too controlled, as if they were following an old rule that had never been forgotten. Jack slowly turned in a full circle. Every single creature's eyes followed him at the same time. Not in fear, not in confusion, but in recognition. He whispered again, almost breaking inside, "I am not your master." But the words felt weak here, like they did not belong in this place. The chamber did not reject him, but it also did not accept his denial. Then something changed. The lights on the floor began to pulse again, slowly at first, then faster, like a heartbeat returning after a long sleep. A deep, mechanical sound echoed through the walls. Not an alarm, not a warning, but something like a memory being unlocked. The entire hatchery reacted as if it had been waiting for this exact moment for centuries. Jack felt a sudden pain in his head. It was sharp, like something was trying to open a locked door inside his mind. He fell to his knees, holding his head tightly, trying to resist it. But resistance was useless, because the memory was not his, but it was inside him anyway. The first image hit him like a flash of lightning. A battlefield across multiple planets, skies burning red, stars collapsing, and in the center of it all, a human figure standing still while everything burned around him. That figure raised a hand, and the war beasts moved like one body. Not wild, not uncontrolled, but perfectly synchronized, like they were part of him. Jack gasped, shaking his head. "No, this is not me. I have never seen this." But the next memory came instantly, stronger than the first. He saw himself wearing armor made of dark light, standing before armies of alien species. He was not speaking loudly, but every creature listened without question. The war beasts surrounding him were different versions of the ones in the chamber, older, more powerful, more deadly. They moved like extensions of his will, not separate beings. Then the memory shifted again. A massive war in deep space, planets breaking apart, entire fleets disappearing in seconds. And through it all, the same human figure remained untouched, controlling chaos like it was nothing. Jack screamed softly, "Stop, I don't want this." But the chamber did not stop. It responded, as if it was finally completing a long-delayed process. The walls of Sector H7 lit up fully now, revealing a massive mural of history. A history that had been erased from all known databases. A history of the first commander of the Void War Beasts. And the face carved into the center of that mural was Jack's face, but not weak, not tired, not human like he was now. It was powerful, cold, and endless, like something beyond time. The war beasts in the chamber all lowered their heads again. This time slower, deeper, more respectful, as if they were acknowledging something they had lost long ago. Jack stood up slowly, his hands shaking. He touched the wall where his image was carved, and the moment he did, another wave of memory hit him. But this time, it was not just images. It was emotion, command, responsibility, loss, and betrayal, all mixed together. He saw the final war. The war that was never recorded in human history. A war so large that it broke entire dimensions. He saw himself giving a final command. A command that made even the strongest war beasts stop fighting. A command that sealed them inside this hatchery for reasons unknown. Then, silence. Everything after that was missing, erased or locked away. Jack collapsed again, breathing heavily. "I sealed you," he whispered, confused. "I locked you here?" The creatures did not respond with anger. They responded with patience, as if they had already forgiven him long ago. The first creature stepped forward again, slowly, carefully. It stopped right in front of Jack, and this time, it did something different. It placed its forehead against the ground, a gesture of absolute loyalty. And inside Jack's mind, the voices returned, not loud this time, but clear and calm. "Welcome back, Commander." Jack's eyes widened, but this time he did not deny it immediately, because something inside him had started to remember too. The chamber of Sector H7 was no longer just a place, it had become a living memory. Breathing and watching, waiting for something to complete itself. Jack stood in the middle of it all, still shaking, still confused. But something inside him was no longer the same as before. The denial that once protected him was now breaking slowly. Like old metal under pressure, the war beasts remained silent. Every creature stood perfectly still, not moving, not blinking, as if even breathing was a command they had not been given yet. They were waiting for him, not as a stranger, but as someone they had lost and found again. Jack slowly walked forward, step by step. His boots made soft echoes, but even those sounds felt controlled, like the chamber allowed them to exist. The deeper he went, the more the hatchery began to change around him. The glowing lines on the floor started shifting direction, not randomly, but forming a path, like the station itself was guiding him somewhere. Toward the center of the chamber, where a large structure stood hidden in shadow. It was not an egg, not a machine, but something in between. A massive black core surrounded by floating fragments of alien metal. It rotated slowly, like a heart that had been asleep for thousands of years. Jack stopped in front of it. The air around it felt heavier, more personal, like it recognized him completely. The war beasts behind him all lowered their heads again, as if acknowledging this moment. He whispered softly, "What is this place? Really?" For a moment, nothing answered. Then the core responded. Not with sound, but with vision. A beam of light shot upward, surrounding Jack completely, and instantly, the world changed. He was no longer inside the hatchery. He was inside memory itself. He saw the beginning. A time before Helix 9 existed, before modern empires, before known space was mapped. A war that covered entire galaxies, not between humans and aliens, but between existence and collapse, and in the center of that war, him again, not Jack, but the commander, the first warden of the beast armies, standing alone on a broken world surrounded by endless enemies. He did not fight like others, he controlled. Every war beast moved as if they were part of his own body. Not animals, not machines, but extensions of his will. The vision shifted. He saw the creation of the hatchery itself, a containment system designed not to imprison the beasts, but to preserve them during the final collapse. Then he saw the betrayal, not from enemies, but from allies. The commanders of allied species deciding that the war beasts were too dangerous to exist. They feared him. Not because he was weak, but because he was too strong, too connected, too absolute. Jack felt a sharp emotion rise in his chest. It was not his anger, but it felt like it belonged to him anyway. A memory of being betrayed, sealed away, and erased from history. The vision continued. He saw himself giving the final order, not an order of destruction, but of preservation. Seal them. Until I return, the memory echoed, but something went wrong. The seal was activated, but the commander never returned, and the memory of him was erased across all known systems. The war beasts were left waiting, frozen between time and loyalty, not dying, not living fully, just waiting for a master who would never come. Jack fell to his knees inside the vision. "No, I didn't abandon you," he whispered, though he wasn't sure who was speaking anymore. Then the core spoke directly into his mind, not as a system, but as something ancient and alive. "You did not abandon," it said. "You were removed." The vision broke instantly, and Jack returned to the chamber, gasping for air. His body shook violently as reality returned around him. The war beasts had not moved, but their presence felt heavier now, more emotional, like they had felt everything he just saw. Jack slowly stood up again. His eyes changed, not fully awakened, not fully human anymore, something in between. He looked at the core again, and this time, it did not feel foreign. It felt like something waiting for him to finish what was left undone. The chamber responded, lights shifting, structures awakening. And deep inside the station, systems that had been dead for centuries began to activate. The war beasts lifted their heads slightly, sensing the change, because for the first time in thousands of years, the commander was no longer just a memory, he was becoming real again. Helix 9 had never been a living station. It was a machine built on silence, control, and fear, where every sound was measured and every movement watched. But now, deep inside Sector H7, something had changed that no one outside understood. Systems that had been dead for centuries suddenly began to wake up, one by one, like old instincts returning. Red warning lights flickered across forgotten corridors. Air vents that had been sealed for decades opened with grinding metal sounds. And deep control panels that had been frozen in time suddenly lit up with ancient commands. Outside the hatchery, the station guards noticed it first. At first, it was just small glitches, power shifts, and strange readings. But within minutes, it became something far worse. The entire lower section of Helix 9 started responding to something it should not have recognized, as if the station itself was remembering a lost command authority. Commander Vrax, the alien officer in charge, stood in the central control room, his sharp eyes narrowed as alarms screamed around him. "This is impossible," he said coldly, watching the data flicker on broken screens. A technician replied nervously, "Sir, Sector H7 is fully active, but no system should be able to activate it." Vrax turned slowly. "No human has access to that sector," he said, voice sharp. "Not even clearance systems allow it." But another alarm cut him off, this time louder, deeper, more urgent. "Unknown command signature detected." The room went silent for a second, because that signature was not alien, not human, not registered in any known Empire database. It was ancient, older than Helix 9 itself. Inside Sector H7, Jack stood near the glowing core, but now something was different about him. The war beasts were no longer just watching, they were reacting. Some of them stepped forward slightly, their eyes shifting between Jack and the chamber walls, as if they were sensing a change in authority. Jack felt it too, a strange pressure in the air, like the station itself was responding to his presence. Not as a janitor, not as a worker, but as something far higher in command. Suddenly, the hatchery doors behind him began to open again, but not like before. This time, they opened slowly, carefully, as if asking permission. And through the opening came armored alien guards, weapons raised, scanning everything with panic and confusion. "Step away from the core," one of them shouted, aiming at Jack. "By order of Helix 9 authority, you are unauthorized in this sector." Jack turned slowly, still confused, still not fully understanding what he had become. "I did not activate anything," he said quietly. But even his voice sounded different now, calmer, deeper, more stable. The guards hesitated for a moment, because behind Jack, the war beasts had moved slightly, not attacking, but shifting into protective positions. Commander Vrax's voice came through the communicator. "Eliminate all biological anomalies in Sector H7 immediately." That order changed everything the moment it was spoken. The war beasts reacted, not with chaos, but with precision. Like a memory being triggered after a long sleep, the first creature moved, so fast it was almost invisible. It appeared between Jack and the guards in an instant. A single motion, and every weapon in the corridor shut down at once. Frozen, disabled, useless. The guards stepped back in panic. "This is impossible." One shouted, "They are supposed to be dormant." But they were not dormant, they were waiting. Jack raised one hand slightly, almost instinctively, and the entire chamber responded. The glowing lines across the floor expanded outward like a network being activated. Doors across Helix 9 locked or unlocked in sequence. And systems long thought destroyed began rewriting themselves in real time. Inside the control room, Vrax stared at the screen in disbelief. Who was giving these commands? He demanded, "Trace it now." But the technician shook his head, terrified. "It's not coming from the control room. It's coming from Sector H7 itself." Vrax froze, because Sector H7 was not supposed to have command authority. It was supposed to be a dead zone, a forgotten prison of failed experiments, yet now it was overriding the entire station. Back in the hatchery, Jack felt it fully now. The connection, not just with the creatures, but with the station itself. It was not control through technology. It was recognition, like the entire structure had once served him, and remembered him again. The war beasts stepped forward as one, their heads slightly lowered, waiting for direction. Jack looked at them, then at the guards, then at the collapsing control systems above. For the first time, his voice did not sound confused. It sounded steady, almost like something inside him had finally aligned. "Stand down," he said quietly, and instantly, everything stopped. The guards froze, not from fear, but from command override. Even their weapons powered down mid-action. The entire station went silent again. But this silence was not empty. It was controlled, waiting, and obedient. Commander Vrax's voice cracked through the speaker one last time. "What are you?" Jack looked toward the core, then slowly answered, not as a janitor, not as a confused human, but as something returning to memory. "I am what you forgot to erase." And deep inside Helix 9, something ancient fully woke up for the first time in thousands of years. Helix 9 no longer felt like a station. It felt like a memory that had been buried for too long and suddenly started breathing again. Every corridor, every system, every locked door had begun responding to something ancient. Not random chaos, but structured awakening. Like a long-lost mind reconnecting itself piece by piece. Inside Sector H7, Jack stood still in front of the glowing core. But now he was no longer shaking like before. Something inside him had settled, as if broken pieces were slowly fitting back together. The war beasts surrounded him in perfect silence. No aggression, no confusion, only recognition. As if they had finally confirmed what they had been waiting for, since time itself had stopped for them. Above them, Helix 9 continued to react. Entire sections of the station switched control without warning. Security systems failed, then restarted under unknown authority. And emergency protocols rewrote themselves as if obeying a forgotten master code. Commander Vrax stood frozen in the control room. His face was pale now, his confidence completely gone. "What is happening to my station?" he whispered, almost angry, almost afraid. A technician answered with a trembling voice, "Sir, it's not your station anymore. Sector H7 has full command control." Vrax slammed his hand on the console. "That sector is dead," he shouted. "It has no authority, no access, no power source." But as he spoke, the main screen flickered, and for the first time in centuries, Helix 9 displayed a command signature that no one had ever seen before. A symbol burned into the system core like a scar from history. The technician stepped back slowly. "That signature. It matches ancient war archives, the first commander." Silence hit the room instantly, because that name did not exist in official records. It existed only in Forbidden's fragments, erased and buried by fear. Back in Sector H7, Jack closed his eyes for a moment. Not because he was weak, but because he could feel everything now. Every system of the station, every war beast, every locked memory, it was all connected to him, not metaphorically, but literally, like an extension of a forgotten self. The core in front of him pulsed brighter, and this time, it spoke without vision or illusion. Only pure thought entered his mind. Command link restored. Jack opened his eyes slowly, and for the first time he did not deny it. He spoke quietly. Then, "It's true." The war beasts behind him responded instantly, all of them lowering their heads together in perfect synchronization. A gesture of final acceptance. Outside, Helix 9 began shifting into full alert mode, but not controlled by Vrax or any known system. It was now operating under a different authority entirely. Entire hangar doors opened across the station. Ancient defense platforms activated from dormancy, and massive energy signatures began forming in orbit. It was not war yet, but it was preparation. Vrax finally made a decision. "If we lose control of the station," he said coldly, "then we destroy Sector H7 completely." He ordered orbital cannons to target the hatchery. The weapons locked on instantly, charging for full destruction. Inside Sector H7, alarms that had not existed before suddenly activated. The war beasts reacted immediately, forming a protective formation around Jack. But Jack raised one hand slowly, stopping them. He looked at the glowing core again. And something inside him responded clearly now, not as memory, but as command. He whispered, No more hiding, the core responded instantly. Final protocol available. Jack hesitated for only a second, then placed his hand on the core. The entire chamber lit up in pure blue light, and for a moment, Helix 9 itself went completely silent. Every system froze, every weapon paused, every command stopped mid-execution. Even the orbital cannons lost targeting lock. Then the transformation began. The war beasts changed position instantly, not in panic but in formation. Like an ancient army finally receiving its long-awaited order, Jack stood at the center, and this time, he was not confused, not lost, not a janitor anymore. His voice came out calm and absolute. "Stand by," and the entire station obeyed. Commander Vrax fell to his knees in the control room without realizing it, not because he wanted to, but because something deeper than authority had overridden him completely. On every screen across Helix 9, one symbol appeared again and again. The symbol of the first commander returned at last. Inside Sector H7, Jack looked at the war beasts one final time, and for the first time, he did not ask who he was. He already knew, not fully, not completely, but enough. And as the station trembled under awakening power, one truth echoed across every system, every chamber, every mind connected to Helix 9. The commander had returned, and this time, the galaxy would remember his name.